All right, excuse the mess. So we'll take these four screws out. We'll attempt to take them out. And we'll see what's going on inside here. I know it's going to be all cruddy. Probably all stinky old fuel. I had it running. I sprayed gas in the intake here, air intake, and I had it running, so I know the tractor runs. I might throw that in this video. You get little Henrietta going. I was looking under the paint on one side, if you're sitting on the left hand side, it says Henrietta underneath the yellow paint, so we'll keep it Henrietta. Kind of a cute name for Henrietta, for a little Ford, Henry Ford tractor. I'm pretty certain that there's a TSX or JSX 33. You need that number when you're getting parts, if you can find the right place for parts. Okay, I'm going to try not to wreck that little gasket in there in case I throw it together after I clean it. Sometimes they stay together and most of the times they don't. Yeah, this one's no good. Always make a new one too with thin gasket material. So we'll pull it apart. It's holding on here. Oh, there's a little jet here. And I was wondering about my float. Kind of weird. It looks like that's odd. Looks like they're squashed. Yeah, it's pretty crowded up in here. I think I'll soak it in my carb cleaner. I might even do a electrolysis on it. Take the rust off and have it cleaned up nicely. Now you take the float out, just pull the pin and lift it out. And that's odd that it's dented in here and here. Almost seems like there was water in here and it crushed it. Might have to get a new float too. Here's what they call a velocity stack. I think it's called the velocity stack. I'm just trying to take this gasket off nicely. Okay, then I can use it as a pattern. If you have gasket material, you could always make your own. I think if I clean it, make a new gasket, maybe it'll work. Oh, I guess I'll have to get a float too. And you guys know the best way to find out if your float works? Throw it in some liquid and see if it floats. Kind of simple. But submerge it and see if it fills full of bubbles. Well, it's stuck on pretty good here. There we go. So we'll have to remember the flat part goes downwards into there. All right, that's right here. That's your air jet. Then there's another, I don't know if that's just a plug. Yeah, I think that's just a plug. I'm not even gonna bother with that. Okay, so this one will turn in. It's probably 1.5 turns to tight. That's usually what the air jets usually go. We'll try. Okay, so it's half. 1. Okay, so it's one turn open after tight. You don't want to crank on it because you wreck things. So it's 1 turn. So you note that down somewhere so you know. One turn. That's what that engine was used to running with. Probably a good place to start. Open. 1 turn open from closed. So I'd like to take everything, all the jets out, and then throw everything in a little bucket or a screened container, and then throw it in your cleaning solution. Then when you take it out, then you can blow it all out with air, compressed air. Yeah, it's pretty crudted up here too. No, we might as well try not to bend that. I think I'll leave that just where it is. I'm gonna take this gasket off. I'll make a new one too, but I like to have it just for a pattern. That can stay on. Anything that's rubber won't last in the solution. We'll take this out. That's the float. That's in your needle, and that's your seat. Now I'll have to get a longer or a wider blade so I don't twist that off. And a large flat screwdriver will take it out. The reason they call it an 8N because it was made in 1948. A 9N, they started making the Ford tractors, little tractors, in 1939. That's why they call it a 9N. And then a 2N, I don't know why they would change it to a 2N. This one's a 1947, but the serial numbers on a 2N and a 9N start with 9N, which is weird to me. It should be like a 2N, then 6 digits. But this 9, or that's just the way they did it. I don't know how they come up with that numbering system. I don't remember the, I'm going to take that one out too with a smaller, it's another little, that's where your air jet, yeah, your air jet goes here and then into here and into here. But I'll have to do some more research on that, how they figured out the crazy serial numbers. Yeah, there's lots of little ports here that has to be cleaned and blown out. I got to get a little smaller screwdriver here. Just with these old tractors and stuff, you just hope that these things aren't seized. No, that one come too. A little tiny jet here. Yep. There, now we should have, this should be able to, we should be able to dunk it right in my cleaning solution. This pail, it's got clean flow parts and metal cleaner. So you throw all your parts in here. I'm gonna throw, I don't need to throw that. A little jet. I'm thinking we're gonna throw this in some water. Actually, I'll throw it in here and see if it'll bubble in my cleaner. This is stinky crap, this. No, it's sinking, so it's, the float does not float, so that float is kaput. I'm still gonna try and get this out before I dunk everything and leave it sit overnight. Right now I got the carburetor all cleaned, took it out of the solution, cleaned it up, and I noticed on here, original carburetor, it says no, it just says Z 483, I think. At first I thought it was 47 on here, but I lied. Anyway, I took this is the original float. Remember, it was squashed from being full of water and it froze, and it was leaking. Right here there was a crack, so I soldered that up. This other side there was no cracks or breaks. It wasn't full of gas, so I drilled a little hole right where the original hole was, and I just blow it with air real gently, with a little bit of air at a time, and it'll pop right out, but the sharp dents don't. But if you get here, I got a little bit of solder. Must have dropped from the inside, dropped down, but that's okay. It still floats. I had it working, so she should be good. Actually, I see there's a little crack right here too. I'll have to solder that one up. All right, anyway, I got the rest of the parts clean, and I blew out all the jets, all the orifices. I got a little fiber kit here. I don't know if we're gonna find anything that's gonna work, but we'll try it out. I wonder if that one will fit for the, oh, it will. I can't believe it. No, just a little hair too small, but it might work. We'll see if it goes in there. Remember, this was the one we use a little socket on. So it should go. Actually, I was quite happy that everything went out okay, and my float is going to work. It's kind of a bonus. Seems kind of thick, this. No, this is what I use, that's why. Gotta have a thin walled socket to get in here to tighten this up. And we're gonna make sure that it's seated all the way down too, so it doesn't leak. It doesn't have to be in there that tight. The last one, whoever put it in, thought it was gonna jump out. Okay, so that should do it, that little bit. Didn't get the rust out. I used the wire brush. It'll be fine. I'm sure it'll be perfectly fine. Yeah, it looks like that did seat all the way down. This is the seat for the float. That'll go in there, but we're going to need another fiber gasket or washer, and I think we're going to have to reuse what we had. Remember, it had 2 on there for some unknown reason. I'll put 2 back on. Maybe the float wasn't closing good enough, or they didn't know enough to bend the float to change the height of the fuel, but we're just going to do this. I'm using a smaller screwdriver right now until I get close, and then I'll use the big screwdriver with the wider blade to crank it in. We don't want that coming loose. That's got a seal. Now there's this little guy, this little jet. Just taking a look through it, see if I can see through it, and I can, so it's good. The little guy goes on an angle too. You tighten that one in all the way till it's tight. Don't over tighten it because it's just brass. You'll strip it. Okay, that's good. Remember this, the needle, and it went in how many turns? You remember? 1 turn from tight, but tighten it up all the way until it's tight, and then back it off 1 turn. And you don't tighten it up gorilla tight, you just snug. It's half, 1 turn back. So it's back to factory. Now, basically I'm just about done here. Got to put the needle, float needle in there. I see that there's a little tiny crack there, so I'm going to solder that up. Be back in a bit. So I sanded down a little bit. A float for this thing I found online, it's like 40 bucks and then shipping, so I thought I'd try and repair it, and it can be done with a little luck. Okay, so the crack here is cleaned up. That's solder paste there. Just put a little tiny dab of solder paste on it. What that does, it just takes impurities away. It's kind of like a flux for welding. It takes the crap away from your weld, and so your weld holds. So we just give it a little bit of heat from the bottom. And you see it's already getting hot because it's really thin, that. And then you can see how fast that goes. You gotta get some on this side. Okay, well, we're just gonna tip it down here. Get a little bit more heat so the solder flows downhill. Oh, you dirty bitch. See what happened? Too much heat and the whole thing came off. But we can fix that. Sorry for the language. That was funny, hey? Yeah. So we'll reattach this little sucker here. I reattach it right where it was. See how fast it got too hot and it just fell apart. I'll leave my screw-ups right on here so everybody can see, because I'm not perfect. Nobody is. There, that looks about right. There, I seen it move, so it should be good. Should have adhered to it. So it doesn't take much heat at all. Okay, so I'm just going to sand this down now where my little blob was. So that's how you work on them. And if you're a little bit off, you could bend it. Not much though, because brass, the more you work it, the more brittle it gets. It's called work hardening. All right, a little rattle I made. And now, somebody hasn't made the gasket we needed. I'm going to make a gasket, so I don't think you guys want to watch this process. I'm just going to trace this out on a thin piece of gasket material, then cut it out. And then I've got the holes. I got the a hole punches. And this I'll just have to do a hole punch and a hole punch and then cut that out with scissors. Okay, I'll be back after that's done. Okay, just like magic, we have a new gasket. Looks like it's gonna work. Now I'll have to find that little stack here for the carburetor. All right, got the stack and the drain plug. Last of the parts. You see how corroded and gross it was. I'll just wipe this off. It'll be nice and clean, and I'll throw it on the tractor and we'll see if we can get the tractor to run. We have time tonight. Perfectly clean. Now we'll be putting this gasket on before the float. Okay, the stack only goes in one way because it won't fit in here like that. It will fit this way, so make sure you put it in the right way. Stack goes in. Now, which way should we put that? I guess it doesn't really matter. Now that'll fit over all your places where it has to be fitting over. There. Looks like we got it. Looks like it's gonna work. Now we'll put this guy on, flip it over, because I think it's off a little bit to one side. Float goes on. Now the bottom bowl. You have to be careful now so we don't bend this jet here. All right, so that's there. How many people had this carburetor part? Now you can crank her down a bit. And this here I see is a little loose, so I'm going to tap that with a hammer after and tighten it up, rivet it in a bit. And if ever your tractor is sitting there and you have your fuel on and fuel's coming out and dripping down when you have your air intake tube off, and if it's dripping out of here, then you know your float has a hole in it and it's sunk. So I'll keep an eye on that. You never know. I'm tightening these up pretty good. There. Now we should maybe put this plug back in. Okay, we'll go to the tractor now. I'll tighten this up, then we'll go to the tractor, and I'll be using the old intake gasket. It'll work. I guess I did see 1947, or it's a 1. It's on the top on the throttle plate. 1 and then 47. So that's an original carburetor right from 1947. I wasn't dreaming. All right, I have the carburetor on. It's 1/2 inch and 7/16. And these little connectors are very easy. You just pull, like you pull the end of the thing and pop off. And they're kind of spring loaded. They go back together after when you... So I turn the fuel on, and we don't have any leaks coming out of here. So it's telling me that my float's working and it's shutting off the fuel when the bowl is full. So we're gonna give her a shot and see if it's gonna start.